I need you to understand something before I tell you this story. I've cleaned houses for 17 years. I've walked into homes where the marble was colder than the people who lived there. I've folded silk sheets for families who wouldn't look me in the eye. But I had never been told not to go to my own room. It was my third night at the Harrington estate. I was in the drawing room closing the heavy velvet curtains against the November rain when Marcus, the head butler, appeared beside me so silently I gasped. His hand was shaking as he pressed something into my palm, a folded note. His eyes were wide, almost desperate, and when I tried to unfold it, he grabbed my wrist. "Not here," he whispered. "Read it in the kitchen. And Loretta," his voice cracked, "whatever you hear tonight, whatever calls to you, don't go upstairs." I stared at him. "But Marcus, my room is—" "I know where your room is." His face had gone the color of old paper. "Just trust me. One night. Stay on the ground floor." Then he was gone, disappearing through the servant's door like smoke. I opened the note in the pantry, my hands trembling so badly I could barely read his handwriting. "They're performing the ceremony tonight. 3rd floor. Whatever you hear, screaming, crying, your own name, it's not real. Do not go upstairs. Lock yourself in the linen closet if you have to. I'm sorry I brought you here." Yes, that's when I heard it. A sound from directly above me, like furniture being dragged. And then, I swear on my mother's grave, someone whispered my name. "Loretta." The chandelier in the hallway started to sway. Just slightly. Just enough. Before I tell you how everything unraveled inside that house, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love seeing how far Loretta's stories travel. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Because what I found on that 3rd floor, it's going to stay with me forever. Let me back up, because you need to know why I was even in that house to begin with. Why I didn't just run the moment Marcus handed me that note. 3 weeks earlier, I was sitting in my sister's living room in Bridgeport, watching my niece draw pictures of houses she'd never live in. Pretty houses with gardens and windows that didn't have bars. Maya was 7. She had my sister's eyes, dark and trusting, and she was asking me if we could afford the surgery for her mom's hip. My sister Carmen hasn't been able to work in 6 months. The factory injury left her barely able to stand, and the insurance company was doing what insurance companies do best, finding reasons to say no. The bill was sitting on the kitchen counter, $14,000. Might as well have been $1 million. That's when my phone rang. An agency I'd worked with before, the Harrington estate, needed temporary household staff, a housekeeper for 3 weeks, while their regular staff took holiday leave. The pay was triple my usual rate. Triple. I didn't even ask why. I just said yes. "It's a big old house in Westchester," the agency woman told me. "Very private family. Very particular. But if you do well." Mrs. Harrington mentioned possible permanent placement. Permanent placement. Health insurance. A salary that could actually pay for Carmen's surgery without me having to choose between that and Maya's winter. Quote, I took the job. The Harrington estate sat behind iron gates and a long driveway lined with oak trees so old they seemed to lean in and watch you pass. The house itself was a Victorian mansion, all dark stone and too many windows, the kind of place that looked like it was always in shadow, even at noon. When I arrived, Marcus met me at the servants' entrance. He was older, maybe 60, with silver hair and the kind of posture that comes from a lifetime of saying, "Yes, sir," and right away, "Ma'am, you'll be primarily responsible for the 2nd floor bedrooms and the common areas," he told me, leading me through a kitchen that was bigger than Carmen's entire apartment. The family keeps to themselves. Mr. Harrington works from his study. Mrs. Harrington oversees the household management. Their daughter Vivian is unwell. She keeps to the 3rd floor. I noticed how he said that last part. Unwell. Like the word itself was fragile. What kind of unwell? I asked. Marcus didn't look at me. The kind we don't discuss, Miss Loretta. He showed me to my room, a small but clean space on the 2nd floor, just down the hall from the main bedrooms. It had a window that looked out over the garden, or what used to be a garden. Now it was mostly overgrown, with a stone fountain in the center that had stopped working years ago. The first 2 days were normal, or what passes for normal in houses like these. I cleaned, I polished, I made myself invisible the way good housekeepers do. The Harringtons barely acknowledged me. Mr. Harrington, tall, thin, with the kind of face that looked like it had forgotten how to smile, passed me in the hallway once and gave a slight nod. Mrs. Harrington, elegant and cold in her silk blouses, left me lists of tasks in perfect handwriting. I never saw Vivian, but I heard her. On my second night around 2 a.m., I woke to the sound of someone walking in the hallway above me. Back and forth, back and forth. The footsteps were bare, I could tell. Soft thuds against hardwood. And then, after about 10 minutes, they stopped. Just stopped. Complete silence. In the morning, I mentioned it to Marcus while we were preparing breakfast. "Oh, that's just Miss Vivian," he said too quickly. "She's a night owl. Paces sometimes." Best not to disturb her, but his hands were shaking as he poured the coffee. That afternoon, I was changing the linens in one of the guest bedrooms when I found something tucked between the mattress and the box spring. A photograph, old, faded, creased like someone had folded and unfolded it many times. It showed a young girl, maybe 16, with long dark hair and a bright smile, standing in front of this very house. On the back, someone had written in neat script, "Vivian, summer 1998, before." Before what? I slipped the photo back where I found it, but my hands felt cold. That night, the third night, was when Marcus gave me the note. And now I was standing in the pantry at 9 p.m., listening to my name being whispered from somewhere above, watching the chandelier sway like something was moving through the air around it. I looked down at Marcus's note again. "They're performing the ceremony tonight." What ceremony? Who was they? And why did the house suddenly feel like it was breathing? I folded the note carefully and tucked it in my pocket. Then I did something I knew I shouldn't do. I stepped out of the pantry and looked up the main staircase. The lights on the second floor were off. But on the third floor, the floor where I'd been told never to go, I could see a faint glow coming from under one of the doors, and I could hear voices, low, chanting. That's when the phone in the kitchen rang, sharp and sudden in the silence, and I nearly screamed. I grabbed the kitchen phone on the fourth ring, my heart hammering so hard I could barely hear my own voice. Harrington residence. Silence. Then breathing. Heavy, labored breathing. "Hello?" I tried again. Don't let them." It was a woman's voice, thin and desperate. Young. "Don't let them finish it. Please. Tell someone." "Tell?" The line went dead. I stood there holding the receiver, my hands slick with sweat. The dial tone buzzed in my ear like an angry wasp. I pressed 69 to call back. I know, I shouldn't have. But the automated voice told me the number was blocked. From upstairs, the chanting grew louder. I could make out words now, though I didn't understand the language. It wasn't English. It wasn't Spanish. It was something older, something that made the air feel thick. Marcus's note said to stay on the ground floor, lock myself in the linen closet if I had to, but that voice on the phone, desperate, terrified, it was young. It could have been Maya in 10 years. It could have been anyone's daughter. I made a decision I'd regret and not regret for the rest of my life. I started up the stairs. The second floor was dark, but enough moonlight came through the tall windows that I could see. I passed my own room, past the guest bedrooms I'd cleaned that morning. Everything was silent here, abandoned, like the entire household had moved to the third floor and forgotten the rest of the house existed. The staircase to the third floor was narrower, older. Servants' stairs, probably, from when this house was built, and people like me weren't supposed to use the main staircase. The wood creaked under my feet, no matter how carefully I stepped. The chanting was louder now, rhythmic, multiple voices moving together like a heartbeat. At the top of the stairs, there was a long hallway with 4 doors. 3 were closed, but the fourth, the one at the very end, was open just a crack. Light spilled out, flickering like candlelight. I crept closer. The floorboards groaned and I froze, but the chanting didn't stop. They hadn't heard me. When I reached the door, I positioned myself to the side and looked through the gap. What I saw made my blood turn to ice. It was a bedroom, but it had been transformed into something else. The furniture was pushed against the walls. In the center of the room, someone had drawn a circle on the floor in what looked like white chalk, though something about it seemed to shimmer. Inside the circle stood Vivian. I knew it was her from the photograph, though she was older now, maybe 35, and so thin she looked like she might collapse. She was wearing a white nightgown, and her eyes were closed. Around the circle stood 5 people in dark robes. I recognized Mrs. Harrington's elegant posture, Mr. Harrington's tall frame. The others I didn't know. They were holding candles and reading from a leather-bound book that one of them held. But it was what was in the circle with Vivian that made me bite down on my fist to keep from screaming. There was something there. Not quite visible, but there. Like the air itself was bending around a shape, a shadow that moved independently of the candlelight. And it was circling Vivian, closer and closer, while she stood perfectly still. Mrs. Harrington's voice rose above the others. We offer this vessel willingly, as was promised. Complete the binding. Make her whole. Vivian's eyes snapped open. They were completely black. And then she smiled. But it wasn't her smile, I could tell. It was something else using her face like a mask. That's when I stepped back and my shoe squeaked against the floor. Every head in that room turned toward the door. Toward me. Someone's there. Mr. Harrington's voice was sharp as a blade. Marcus, check the hallway, now! I heard footsteps inside the room, coming toward the door. I ran. I flew down those stairs so fast I nearly fell twice, my hands scraping against the wallpaper, my breath coming in gasps. Behind me I could hear the door slam open, hear Marcus calling my name. Miss Loretta! Miss Loretta, wait! But I didn't wait. I couldn't. I made it to the second floor and ducked into the first room I could find. The linen closet, ironically, the exact place Marcus had told me to hide. I pushed the door closed and locked it, then backed up against the shelves full of towels and sheets. My whole body shaking, footsteps in the hallway, slow, deliberate, Loretta. It was Marcus's voice, right outside the door, but something was wrong with it. It was too flat, too calm. Loretta, please come out. The family would like to speak with you. I pressed my hand over my mouth to muffle my breathing. Loretta. Closer now. I could see the shadow of his feet under the door. What you saw, it's not what you think. Miss Vivian is sick. They're trying to help her. You understand, don't you? You have a sick sister. You understand what people do for family. My blood went cold. How did he know about Carmen? The doorknob rattled, once, twice, then silence. We know you're in there, Marcus said quietly, and we know you can't stay in there forever. His footsteps retreated. But I knew he was right. I was trapped in a house with people who were doing something unspeakable to their own daughter, and they knew I'd seen it. I stayed in that linen closet for 3 hours. I know because I watched the numbers on my phone tick by. 9:47, 10:32, 11:15. I didn't dare turn on the light. I just sat there in the dark, surrounded by the smell of lavender sachets and starch, listening. For the first hour, I heard footsteps, doors opening and closing, voices in the hallway, muffled but urgent, Mrs. Harrington's clipped tone. She couldn't have gone far. Mr. Harrington's deeper rumble. Search every room, quietly. We don't need the neighbors asking questions. The neighbors were half a mile away through the woods. No one would hear me scream. Around 11:30, the house went quiet. Completely quiet. The kind of silence that feels deliberate, like the building itself is holding its breath. I waited another 30 minutes. Then, slowly, carefully, I unlocked the closet door and cracked it open. The hallway was empty. Dark. One of the wall sconces flickered at the far end, casting shadows that seemed to move on their own. I needed to get out of this house. But my car keys were in my room, my purse, everything, and my room was on the other side of the second floor. past the main staircase where anyone coming up from the ground floor would see me. I had two choices: make a run for it with nothing, or try to get my things and leave like a person instead of prey. I chose wrong, or right. I still don't know. I crept down the hallway toward my room, keeping close to the wall. Every few steps I'd freeze and listen, but there was nothing. Just that thick, waiting silence. My room was untouched. The bed I'd made that morning, the small desk where I'd left my notebook, the window still cracked open to let in the November air. For a moment, I almost convinced myself I'd imagined everything. Then I saw what was on my pillow, the photograph, the one I'd found between the mattress. Vivian, summer 1998, before. Except now there was something written on it in red ink. Fresh red ink. She was whole once, before she let it in. Don't make the same mistake. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. Someone had been in my room. Someone had known I'd found this photograph and wanted me to see this message. But who? And what did it mean? I grabbed my purse, my keys, and was about to run when I heard it. That sound from the first night. Footsteps directly above me, pacing back and forth, back and forth. Vivian's room was right above mine. I should have left. God knows I should have left. But something about those footsteps. They weren't the slow, deliberate walk of the possessed woman I'd seen in the circle. These were frantic, desperate, like someone trying to wear a path in the floor, like someone trapped. I looked at the photograph in my hand. At that bright smile from 27 years ago, before. What had happened to her? I made my second terrible decision of the night. I put my purse down. I took off my shoes so I wouldn't make noise, and I went back up to the third floor. This time, I knew which door was hers, the one at the end of the hall where the ceremony had been. The door was closed now, but I could see light underneath it, and I could hear the pacing clearer now. Step, 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 turn, step, 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 turn, mechanical, endless. I pressed my ear against the door. Please, I heard someone whisper. Vivian's voice, but fragile, human. Please, someone help me. It's getting stronger. I can't hold it back much longer. My heart cracked open. Vivian, I whispered through the door. Can you hear me? The pacing stopped. Complete silence. Then, who's there? Her voice was sharp with fear. Who's outside? Mother? Father? Is it time already? My name is Loretta, I said quietly. I'm the new housekeeper. I saw what they did to you tonight. The ceremony. A sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. Then you should run. You should run as far from this house as you can and never look back. What did they do to you? They didn't do anything to me. Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. I let it in. 10 years ago, I was sick, really sick, dying sick, and they found a way to save me. They called something old, something that wanted a body, and I said yes because I was 25 and terrified of dying. I pressed my forehead against the door. What's inside you? I don't know what it is, but it's hungry, and every month they do the ceremony to keep it satisfied, to keep it from taking me over completely. Her voice cracked. But it's not working anymore. I can feel it. Tonight, when they chanted, it got stronger. It's learning. It's waiting. Waiting for what? For the night when I'm too weak to fight it anymore. And then it won't just be me. It'll walk right out of this house and into the world, wearing my face. The floorboards creaked behind me. I spun around. Marcus stood at the top of the stairs, and this time he wasn't alone. Mrs. Harrington was beside him, still in her dark robe, her face perfectly calm. Loretta, she said, like she was greeting me at a dinner party. I think it's time we had a conversation about your future employment, don't you? Mrs. Harrington gestured toward the stairs with one elegant hand. After you, dear. Let's speak somewhere more comfortable. It wasn't a request. Marcus moved aside to let me pass, his face unreadable. As I walked down the stairs between them, I noticed his hands were still shaking. Whatever he was to this family, loyal servant, accomplice, prisoner, he wasn't comfortable with what they were doing. They led me to Mr. Harrington's study on the first floor. I'd cleaned it once, briefly, under Marcus's supervision. Dark wood paneling, leather furniture that probably cost more than my car, and walls lined with books that looked like they'd never been opened. Mr. Harrington sat behind his desk, still wearing his robe. The book they'd been reading from during the ceremony was open in front of him. Mrs. Harrington gestured to a chair. "Sit," I sat. She settled into the chair across from me, crossing her legs like we were about to discuss the menu for tomorrow's dinner. Marcus stood by the door. Mr. Harrington watched me with cold, calculating eyes. "You've seen something tonight that you weren't meant to see," Mrs. Harrington began. "And now we have a problem." "You're doing something to your daughter," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Something wrong." "Wrong?" Mrs. Harrington's laugh was sharp. "We're keeping her alive, Miss Loretta. 10 years ago, Vivian was dying of a degenerative neurological disease. The doctors gave her 6 months. We had a choice: watch our only child waste away, or find another solution. You made a deal with something," I said. "We made a choice," Mr. Harrington corrected, his voice flat. "The entity that resides in Vivian saved her life. In exchange, it gets to exist. The ceremonies keep it contained, keep it from taking her over completely. She's a prisoner in her own body. She's alive." Mrs. Harrington leaned forward. "Tell me, Miss Loretta, your sister, Carmen, isn't it? She needs surgery. $14,000. I'm sure that feels impossible on a housekeeper's salary." My blood went cold. "How do you—" "We do our research on everyone who enters this household," she smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. "Your niece Maya, 7 years old. Such a sweet age. It would be terrible if Carmen's condition worsened because she couldn't afford treatment. If Maya had to grow up watching her mother suffer." The threat was clear, crystal clear. "What do you want?" I asked. "Your silence," Mr. Harrington said simply. "You continue your employment here. You don't speak of what you've seen. And in return, we'll pay for Carmen's surgery. Full amount. Consider it a bonus for your discretion." I stared at them, at their calm faces, their expensive clothes, their absolute certainty that money could buy anything, even complicity. "And if I say no?" Mrs. Harrington's smile widened. "Then you'll find that accusations of theft are very easy to prove when we plant evidence in your car. Your employment history will be destroyed. Your sister won't get her surgery. And Maya—" She paused. "Well, children are so vulnerable, aren't they?" Marcus flinched by the door. My mind was racing. I thought about Carmen, about Maya's hopeful face asking if we could afford to help her mom. I thought about Vivian, pacing in her room, fighting against the thing inside her. I made the only choice I could. "Okay," I said quietly. "I'll stay. I won't say anything." Mrs. Harrington relaxed visibly. "Wonderful. I knew you'd be reasonable. One condition," I added, and her eyes narrowed. "I want the money up front. Transfer it to my account before the surgery. Proof that you'll keep your word." Mr. Harrington nodded slowly. "Fair. We'll arrange the transfer tomorrow. The surgery can be scheduled for next week." They believed me. They actually believed I'd take blood money and ignore what they were doing to their daughter. "You may return to your room," Mrs. Harrington said, standing. "And Loretta? The 3rd floor is off limits. Completely. If we find you up there again—" She didn't need to finish the sentence. Marcus escorted me back upstairs. When we reached my room, he lingered at the door. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I should never have brought you here. But they pay well, and I have debts, and I—" He stopped, his face crumpling. I thought I could live with it. I've been telling myself for 10 years that Miss Vivian chose this. But tonight, when you went up there, when you talked to her— He swallowed hard. "She called for help. She asked someone to help her. She never does that anymore." "Marcus," I said carefully. "The woman who called tonight. The one who told me not to let them finish it. Who was that?" He looked away. "Miss Vivian has a cousin, Catherine. She lived here once, years ago, when the binding first happened. She tried to stop it. They threw her out, threatened her, made sure she'd never be believed." He met my eyes. "She calls sometimes, trying to warn people, trying to get someone to do what she couldn't." "Do you have her number?" "No, they made sure I don't." He hesitated. "But there's something you should know. The ceremonies. They're not just keeping the entity contained anymore. They're feeding it, making it stronger, Mr. and Mrs. Harrington think they're in control, but—" He lowered his voice. "I've been here for every ceremony in the past 10 years, and I've watched that thing grow. I don't think there's much of Miss Vivian left to save." He left me alone. I sat on my bed, my mind racing. I'd bought myself time by pretending to cooperate, but I couldn't just take their money and leave Vivian to that fate. I couldn't, but what could I do? I was one housekeeper against a wealthy family who clearly had resources, connections, and something dark and powerful at their disposal. I needed evidence. Real, concrete evidence that even they couldn't explain away. I thought about what I'd seen. The ceremony, the circle, the book. It had been on Mr. Harrington's desk, open. If I could photograph it, get documentation of what they were doing. I looked at the clock. 1:47 a.m. The house was quiet now. They'd be asleep, confident they'd bought my silence. I grabbed my phone and turned the camera to silent mode. Then I slipped out of my room and crept back downstairs. The study door was closed but unlocked. I pushed it open slowly, wincing at every creak. The room was dark except for moonlight through the windows. The desk was empty. The book was gone. But something else was there. A file folder, left open like someone had been reviewing it and gotten interrupted. I moved closer, using my phone's flashlight on the dimmest setting. It was full of medical records. Vivian's medical records. I photographed page after page, my heart pounding. Diagnosis, Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. Progressive, fatal. Prognosis, 4-8 months. Date, April 2015, and then, stapled to the back, something else. A business card. Aged, worn. Dr. Matthias Caney, specialist in alternative treatments and ancient remedies. Below that, an address in upstate New York and a phone number. I photographed everything, then carefully closed the folder and positioned it exactly as I'd found it. As I turned to leave, I noticed something on the bookshelf behind the desk. A photo frame, turned face down. I picked it up. It was a family photo. Mr. and Mrs. Harrington, younger. Vivian, maybe 16, bright-eyed and healthy. And another girl beside her, similar features, slightly younger. I turned the photo over. Written on the back, the Harrington sisters, Vivian and Catherine, 1996, Catherine. The cousin who'd tried to stop the binding. The one who'd called to warn me she wasn't a cousin at all. She was Vivian's sister, and the Harringtons had erased her from the family entirely. I photographed the picture and put it back exactly as I'd found it. As I turned to leave the study, I heard a sound that made my heart stop. Footsteps, coming down the stairs, and singing. A woman's voice, soft and melodic, singing something in that strange language I'd heard during the ceremony. It was coming closer. I dropped to the floor behind Mr. Harrington's desk, my phone clutched against my chest. The singing grew louder, closer. The words were incomprehensible, but there was something hypnotic about them, something that made my head feel heavy and my thoughts slow. The study door swung open. Through the gap between the desk and the wall, I could see bare feet stepping across the threshold, the hem of a white nightgown, Vivian. But the way she moved, it was all wrong. Too smooth, too deliberate, like someone learning how to operate a body for the first time. She walked to the center of the room and stopped, still singing. Then, slowly, the singing stopped. "I know you're here," she said. But it wasn't Vivian's voice from behind the door. This was something else, layered, like two voices speaking at once. "I can smell your fear. It's delicious." I held my breath, pressing myself flatter against the floor. The daughter of suffering, the sister of pain. The thing wearing Vivian's body laughed softly. "You think you can help her? The girl in the cage. She's almost gone now. Another month, maybe 2. Then this flesh will be mine completely." It walked closer to the desk. I could see her feet stopped just inches from where I was hiding. "But you're interesting," it continued. "So desperate to save everyone. Your sister, your niece, even a stranger locked in her own skull." A pause. "I could help you, you know. I could make you strong, wealthy. You'd never have to scrub another floor or swallow another insult from people who think you're invisible. The voice dropped to a whisper. All you have to do is invite me in. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but there was nowhere to go. If I moved, it would see me. Then from upstairs, I heard Mr. Harrington's voice. Vivian, where are you? The thing wearing his daughter's body tilted its head, listening. Then it turned and glided back toward the door, that eerie singing starting up again. I waited until the footsteps faded up the stairs, until I heard Mr. Harrington's voice, gentle and placating. Come on, sweetheart. Back to your room. It's not safe for you to wander. She was here, I heard Vivian, or the thing inside her, say. The cleaning woman. She was here. I'm sure she's asleep in her room. Mrs. Harrington's voice now, calm. Come, let's get you settled. I waited 5 more minutes, counting every second, before I crawled out from behind the desk and ran back to my room. I didn't sleep. How could I? I sat on my bed, my phone in my hands, scrolling through the photos I'd taken. The medical records, Dr. Kane's card, the family photo with Catherine, the erased sister. At 6 a.m. when the sky started to lighten, I made a decision. I pulled up the phone number from Dr. Kane's card and called it. It rang 4 times before someone picked up. Caney residence. An old man's voice, gravelly with sleep. Dr. Caney? My name is Loretta. I'm calling about the Harrington family. A long silence. Then, how did you get this number? I work for them. I found your card in their files. I need to know what you did to Vivian Harrington 10 years ago. I don't discuss former patients. She's dying, I said desperately. Not from the disease, from whatever you put inside her. It's taking over and they can't stop it. Another pause. Are you calling from the house? Yes. Then hang up, now. They monitor all calls from that property. Meet me. There's a diner called Rosie's on Route 117, 20 minutes from the estate. Tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Come alone. And Miss Loretta, if they discover you called me, they will kill you. Do you understand? Not threaten, not intimidate. They will kill you to protect what they've done. The line went dead. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. They monitor all calls, which meant there was a knock at my door. Miss Loretta? Marcus's voice. Mrs. Harrington requests your presence in the dining room. Breakfast is being served. I opened the door. Marcus looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept either. Did they? I started to whisper. He shook his head almost imperceptibly and mouthed. Later. Breakfast was a nightmare dressed up as civility. Mrs. Harrington sat at the head of the table, perfectly composed in a cream silk blouse. Mr. Harrington read the newspaper, and Vivian, the real Vivian, I could tell from the fear in her eyes, sat between them pushing eggs around her plate with a fork. Good morning, Loretta, Mrs. Harrington said brightly. I trust you slept well? Yes, ma'am. Wonderful. I wanted to inform you that we've arranged the transfer for your sister's surgery. The funds will be in your account by noon today, she smiled. We keep our promises. I forced myself to smile back. Thank you. Vivian looked up at me. For just a moment our eyes met, and in that moment I saw her mouth 2 words. Help me. Then her face went blank again, like a door slamming shut. Vivian has had a difficult night, Mrs. Harrington said, noticing the exchange. She's been restless, haven't you, darling? Yes, Mother, Vivian said in that flat, obedient voice. In fact, Mrs. Harrington continued, dabbing her lips with a napkin, we've decided to accelerate the schedule. We'll be performing another ceremony tomorrow night, a larger one. We've invited some associates, people who understand what we're dealing with. Associates? I asked before I could stop myself. Others who have made similar arrangements, Mr. Harrington said without looking up from his paper. It's become something of a network over the years. People helping people. You'd be surprised how many families have found alternative solutions to impossible problems. My stomach turned. There were more of them, more families doing this to their children. You'll need to prepare the 3rd floor ballroom, Mrs. Harrington said to me. Move the furniture, clean thoroughly. Marcus will provide you with specific instructions. The ceremony will require more space than usual. Of course, I managed. After breakfast, Marcus pulled me aside in the kitchen. The phone call this morning, he whispered urgently. To Dr. Kane, they know. My blood froze. How? I told you they monitor everything. Mrs. Harrington has someone who tracks the phone logs. She hasn't said anything yet because she wants to see what you'll do. He gripped my arm. You need to leave. Today. Right now. Take the money and go. I can't leave Vivienne. Vivienne is already gone. His voice cracked. I've been here for 10 years, watching that thing eat her from the inside. There's nothing left to save. You don't believe that. If you did, you wouldn't have warned me the first night. He looked away, his jaw working. There's something else. Catherine, Miss Vivienne's sister. She didn't just try to stop the binding. She tried to kill Vivienne to save her. She came to the house with a gun. The Harringtons stopped her, had her committed to a psychiatric facility. She was released 6 months ago. He pulled a piece of paper from his pocket. This came for you, hidden in today's mail delivery. He handed me an envelope. No return address. Just my name in neat handwriting. Inside was a single page. Loretta, they know you called. The ceremony tomorrow is not about containing it. It's about transferring it. They're going to put it in someone else. Someone expendable. Someone no one will miss. You need to get out. But if you can't, if you're going to try to save my sister, you need to break the binding circle during the ceremony. The chalk has ion filings mixed in. Disrupt the circle and the entity will have nowhere to anchor. It will consume whoever's closest. Probably Vivienne, probably you, but at least it won't escape. Catherine, the paper fell from my hands. They're going to put it in me, I whispered. Tomorrow night. That's why they wanted me to stay. That's why they paid for Carmen's surgery. They needed me compliant and grateful, and here, Marcus's face confirmed it. From upstairs, we heard singing. That same eerie melody in the strange language, and then clear as a bell. Vivienne's voice, her real voice, screaming, "No! No, please, not yet. I'm still here." The screaming cut off abruptly. Then silence. Marcus and I stared at each other, horror mirrored in both our faces. Tomorrow night, he said quietly. If you're still here tomorrow night, we're all going to hell. I spent the rest of that day preparing the third-floor ballroom like I'd been told. But my mind was racing through every possible plan and discarding them all. The ballroom was massive, twice the size of Carmen's entire apartment. Crystal chandeliers, parquet floors, tall windows that overlooked the dead garden. Marcus and I moved furniture against the walls, rolled up the Persian rugs, cleaned every surface until it gleamed. They'll bring the circle up here, Marcus muttered as we worked. Bigger space. More witnesses. It makes it more powerful somehow. More people believing in it. How many people are coming? Last time they did a large ceremony, there were 12. Families from Connecticut, Massachusetts, even one from Vermont. He paused, wiping sweat from his forehead. They all have someone like Vivienne. Someone hosting something that should never have been invited in. We have to stop this. How? He looked at me with hollow eyes. We're servants, Loretta. We don't matter to people like this. We're furniture, tools. If we disappear, they'll just hire replacements. Then I'll go to the police. And tell them what? That a wealthy family is performing occult rituals? They'll laugh you out of the station. Or worse, the Harringtons have friends in the police department. I've seen the Christmas cards. He shook his head. The only way to stop this is to break the circle tomorrow night. Like Catherine said. But that means, it means dying, I finished. I know, we worked in silence for a while. Then Marcus pulled something from his pocket. A small recording device, the kind they use for lectures or meetings. I recorded the last ceremony, he said quietly. The one you saw. I've been recording them for 2 years now, thinking maybe someday I'd have the courage to do something with the tapes. I never did. He pressed it into my hand. But you might. I turned it on. The sound of chanting filled the space between us. Mrs. Harrington's voice, clear and commanding. We offer this vessel willingly, as was promised. Complete the binding, make her whole. Then another voice, layered and wrong. Yes, more offerings, more flesh. That's not Vivienne, I whispered. No, Marcus agreed. That's what lives inside her now. I pocketed the recorder. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. That recording won't be enough to convince anyone. But maybe. He glanced around, making sure we were alone. Maybe it's a start. That night I lay in bed fully clothed, waiting for the house to fall asleep. At 2 a.m., I slipped out of my room and crept to the garage. My car was still there, but when I checked the glove compartment, I found exactly what I feared, a small velvet pouch I'd never seen before, filled with antique jewelry. Planted evidence. If I tried to leave now, they'd call the police, report a theft, and I'd be arrested before I made it 5 miles. I was trapped. I went back inside, my heart sinking. But instead of returning to my room, I made a decision. If I was going to die tomorrow night breaking that circle, I needed to know exactly what I was dying to stop. I climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor. To Vivian's door. Vivian? I whispered. Are you awake? For a long moment, nothing. Then Loretta, her real voice weak and frightened. You shouldn't be here. It's listening. It's always listening. I need to understand. Catherine's letter said breaking the circle would kill you. Is that what you want? A sound that might have been a laugh. What I want? I haven't had a choice in 10 years. But yes, God, yes. If you can end this, end me. Please do it. I'm so tired of fighting. The ceremony tomorrow. They're going to transfer it to me, aren't they? I heard them planning it. They need someone healthy. Someone without family who'd ask too many questions. Her voice cracked. I tried to warn you. I tried to fight it back, but it's so strong now. It knows what they're planning, and it's excited. Fresh meat. A body that isn't already breaking down from hosting it. How do I stop it? Really stop it, not just break the circle. Silence. Then, there's only one way. The book, the one they read from. It has a reversal ritual in the back pages. But you'd need the original binding circle. The first one they drew when they summoned it. And that's... She paused. That's in the basement. In the old wine cellar. They sealed it down there because the entity was too strong at first. It tried to escape, so they trapped it, then later moved it into me when the containment started failing. The basement, I repeated. Is it marked somehow? The door is behind the furnace, locked. But Marcus has the key. He has to go down there sometimes to check the seals. They make him. Her voice was fading like she was being pulled away. Loretta, you need to hurry. It's waking up. It knows we're talking. Her voice cut off, replaced by that other voice. That layered, hungry thing, still trying to play hero. It purred through the door. You're going to taste so sweet tomorrow night. I can already feel how strong you are. How desperate. That makes the takeover so much more satisfying. I backed away from the door. Run, little housekeeper. Run and run. You won't make it far. The gates are locked. The phones are monitored. And we've already paid for your sister's surgery. If you disappear, we'll make sure it's cancelled. We'll make sure Carmen knows her sister chose to abandon her. The thing laughed. You're already ours. You just don't know it yet. I ran downstairs and found Marcus in his room, still awake, staring at the ceiling. I need the basement key, I said. The wine cellar. His face went pale. You can't go down there. Miss Loretta, that's where the original binding circle is. I know. Vivian told me if there's a reversal ritual, I need to document that circle. The reversal ritual only works if you have someone who knows the old language, someone who can read the book and perform the counter ceremony. He sat up. The only person who might know how is Dr. Kane, and you're supposed to meet him tomorrow morning. If you're even alive that long, he was right. I needed that meeting. Marcus reached under his pillow and pulled out a small brass key. The door behind the furnace. There are stairs. Don't go all the way down, just far enough to see the circle and photograph it. And whatever you do, don't step inside the circle. It's still active. Still hungry. I took the key, my hand trembling. Thank you, Loretta. He grabbed my wrist. If this goes wrong tomorrow night, if they succeed in transferring it to you, I want you to know I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't have the courage to stop this years ago. I'm sorry I brought you into this hell. It's not your fault, I said. Yes, he whispered. It is. The basement was exactly as terrible as I'd imagined. Stone walls weeping with moisture. The smell of earth and rot and something else. Something chemical and wrong. I followed the narrow passage past the furnace, using my phone as a flashlight. The door was small, wooden, reinforced with iron bands. The key turned with a grinding sound that echoed in the dark. The stairs beyond were steep and ancient. I could see light below, a pale greenish glow that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. I descended slowly, my hand on the damp wall for balance. The air grew colder with each step, colder and heavier, like something was pressing down on my chest. At the bottom, I saw it. The binding circle was painted directly onto the stone floor in something that looked like silver, but moved like liquid in the greenish light. The symbols around it were nothing I'd ever seen, angular, sharp, hurt to look at directly, and in the center of the circle, suspended somehow in the air, was a shape, not quite visible, but there, writhing, waiting. I raised my phone and took pictures, my hands shaking so badly the images were blurred. But it would have to be enough. As I turned to leave, I heard a sound behind me, a whisper. My name, Loretta. I didn't look back. I ran up those stairs faster than I've ever moved in my life, slammed the door, locked it, and didn't stop running until I was back in my room with the door locked and a chair wedged onto the handle. On my phone, the photos of the binding circle glowed with that same greenish light, and underneath the last photo, a text message appeared from an unknown number. 10 a.m. Rosie's Diner, don't be late. And bring everything you found. We're running out of time. K morning couldn't come fast enough. I left the house at 6:30 a.m., telling Marcus I was going to check on Carmen before the surgery. Mrs. Harrington was still asleep. Mr. Harrington was in his study. And Vivian, I heard her pacing above my room, that endless back and forth that never stopped. The morning was cold and gray, threatening rain. I drove with my hands tight on the wheel, checking the rear view mirror every few seconds, convinced I'd see the Harringtons following me. Rosie's Diner was a small, tired-looking place off the highway. Only 2 other cars in the parking lot. I found Dr. Kane in a corner booth, a coffee cup in front of him and a leather satchel on the seat beside him. He was older than I'd expected, maybe 70, with white hair and deep lines around his eyes. He looked like he hadn't slept well in years. "Miss Loretta," he said as I slid into the booth across from him. "You made it. I wasn't sure you would. You said they'd kill me if they found out I called you, and I meant it." He pushed a menu towards me. "Order something. We need to look like we're having a normal breakfast. The Harringtons have people everywhere." I ordered coffee I wouldn't drink. When the waitress left, Dr. Kane leaned forward. "Show me what you found." I pulled out my phone and showed him everything. The medical records, the photos of the binding circle in the basement, the recording of the ceremony, the picture of the Harrington sisters. He listened to the recording with his eyes closed, his face growing paler with each word. "My God," he whispered when it ended. "It's gotten so much stronger. When I bound it 10 years ago, it could barely speak. You did this?" I stared at him. "You put that thing inside Vivienne?" "The Harringtons paid me $200,000. His voice was flat. And I was young enough, arrogant enough to think I could control it. Ancient texts, summoning rituals, I'd studied them academically for years. I thought I understood the risks. He looked at me with hollow eyes. I didn't. The entity I called wasn't some mindless force. It was intelligent, hungry. And the moment it entered Vivian, I knew I'd made a terrible mistake. Then help me fix it. There's no fixing it, only ending it. He pulled a worn book from his satchel, different from the one the Harringtons used, older. "This is my copy of the ritual text. The reversal ceremony is here, but it requires 3 things. The original binding circle, which you photographed. Someone who can read the old language and perform the counter-ritual. That's me, and," he paused, "a willing sacrifice. Someone to anchor the entity while the binding is broken, so it doesn't just leap to the nearest host." "Vivienne," I said. "She told me she wants this to end. Vivienne is the sacrifice. She has been from the beginning, but the entity is too strong now. It won't let her die easily. It will fight, and if we fail, If we make even one mistake in the reversal, it will escape and take the nearest person. He met my eyes. Which will be you or me? Then we don't make mistakes. He studied me for a long moment. You're braver than I was. When the Harringtons called 2 months ago, asking for another ceremony to strengthen the binding, I told them I was retired. I should have said no 10 years ago. Tonight, I said, they're doing a transfer ceremony. They're going to try to put it in me. His coffee cup clattered against the saucer. Transfer? That's not, the ritual doesn't work that way. You can't just move it to another host without... He stopped, realization dawning. Unless they've been teaching it. Training it. My God, they've been experimenting. Can we stop it? If I can get into that house during the ceremony, yes. But Loretta... He gripped my hand across the table. This entity has been feeding on Vivian's life force for 10 years. When we break the binding, it will try to consume everything around it before it dies. The ballroom will become a killing ground. Anyone in that circle when the reversal completes will be drained, dead within seconds, including Vivian, especially Vivian. She's been its anchor. Without her, it has nothing to hold on to. It will burn through her and fade. He released my hand. Are you prepared for that? To watch a woman die to save others? I thought about Vivian's voice through the door. I'm so tired of fighting. Yes, I said. I am. We spent the next hour planning. Dr. Kane would arrive at the house at 8 p.m. during the ceremony, disguised as one of the guests. I'd steal the Harrington's ritual book and replace key pages with the reversal ritual from Dr. Kane's book. When Mrs. Harrington began the ceremony, she'd actually be reading the words to break the binding instead of strengthen it. The moment she realizes what's happening, it will be chaos, Dr. Kane warned. The entity will fight back. The other families will try to stop us. You need to keep that circle intact until the reversal completes, about 90 seconds. If anyone breaks the circle early, the entity escapes. How will I know it's working? The symbols will burn. Actually burn, blue flames. And Vivian, he swallowed hard. She'll scream. It won't be pleasant, I nodded, my stomach churning. There's one more thing, he said. Catherine, Vivian's sister. She should be there. She deserves to see this end. The Harringtons had her committed. She's been out for 6 months, but I don't know where. I know where. He pulled out his phone and showed me a text conversation. Catherine had been contacting him for years, begging him to help her save her sister. I'll bring her. We left the diner separately. As I drove back to the estate, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I saw you leave. Where did you go? E.H. Elizabeth Harrington, I typed back quickly. Just checking on my sister before her surgery. Wanted to thank you again. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. See you tonight. 8 p.m. sharp. Wear something nice. You're the guest of honor. My blood turned to ice. When I returned to the house, it was already being transformed. Caterers carried trays of food. Florists arranged black roses in crystal vases. And in the 3rd floor ballroom, workers were installing additional lighting and setting up chairs in a circle around where the ritual circle would be drawn. Marcus found me in the hallway. They're calling it a celebration, he whispered. A ceremony of renewal. 12 families, all of them with someone hosted. They're treating it like a social event. It's a theater, I realized. They want witnesses. They want proof that the transfer works, so other families will pay them to do it. You need to leave. Right now, before... I can't. I showed him the text from Mrs. Harrington. They're watching. And tonight, Dr. Kane is coming. We're going to end this. His face went pale. The reversal ritual. You're actually going to try it. I need your help. The ritual book, the one they use. Where is it right now? Mr. Harrington's study. He's been reviewing it all morning. I need you to get it for me. Just for 10 minutes. There are pages I need to swap. If they catch me, they'll kill you. I know, they'll kill me too. They'll kill all of us if we don't stop this. I gripped his arm. Marcus, how many more people are they going to feed to this thing? How many more daughters and sons and desperate families? He closed his eyes. The book is locked in his desk, but he goes to the bathroom at 3 p.m. every day. Like clockwork, 10 minutes. That's all I need. At 2:55 p.m., I waited in the hallway outside Mr. Harrington's study with Dr. Kane's reversal pages tucked inside my uniform. My hands were sweating. My heart was trying to punch through my ribs. At 3:01, Mr. Harrington emerged and walked down the hall toward the bathroom. Marcus appeared from the other direction, holding a small key. 5 minutes, he whispered. That's all we have. We slipped into the study. The book was in the top drawer of the desk, locked. Marcus's hand shook as he opened it. The ritual book was massive, leather-bound, filled with handwritten text in that same angular script I'd seen in the basement. I found the ceremony for tonight, the transfer of sacred burden, and carefully removed those pages. In their place, I inserted Dr. Kane's reversal ritual. The pages were almost identical in appearance, aged paper, similar handwriting style. Unless someone studied them closely, they'd never notice the switch. 2 minutes, Marcus hissed. I closed the book, locked it back in the drawer. We were halfway to the door when we heard footsteps in the hallway. Mr. Harrington returning. Marcus shoved me into the closet and closed the door just as the study door opened. Through the crack, I could see Mr. Harrington walk to his desk, pull out the book, and flip through it. He stopped on the page I'd just replaced. My heart stopped. He stared at it for what felt like an eternity. Then he closed the book, locked it away, and left the room. I nearly collapsed with relief. By 7 p.m., the guests were arriving. Expensive cars pulling up the driveway. Men and women in formal attire, some with teenage children who looked hollow-eyed and distant, the hosted ones. I counted 13 of them. Children who'd been turned into vessels for something that should never have been invited in. Mrs. Harrington found me in the kitchen. Loretta, go upstairs and change. You'll be joining us in the ballroom. I don't understand. You're part of tonight's ceremony. Didn't we tell you? Her smile was razor sharp. You'll need to look presentable for our guests. She handed me a white dress. The same style as Vivian's nightgown. A vessel's dress. PM, she said. Don't be late. At 7:45, I stood in my room wearing that white dress, feeling like I was wearing my own funeral shroud. My phone buzzed. I'm here. Parked down the road. Catherine is with me. When the ceremony begins, we'll enter through the servants' entrance. Stay strong. Came from upstairs, I heard music playing. Classical, beautiful, like a wedding or a funeral. I took a deep breath, touched the recording device in my pocket that Marcus had given me, already running, already documenting everything, and climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor. The ballroom doors were open. Inside, 12 families sat in chairs arranged in a circle. In the center of the floor, someone had drawn a massive binding circle in white chalk mixed with iron filings. Standing in the center, wearing her own white dress, was Vivian. Her eyes found mine across the room, and I saw it, just for a moment, the real Vivian, terrified, hopeful, pleading. Then Mrs. Harrington took my arm and led me into the circle, beside Vivian. Welcome, everyone, Mrs. Harrington announced, to a ceremony of renewal. Tonight we complete a sacred transfer. Tonight we prove that eternal life is not just a dream, but a gift we can give to those we love. Mr. Harrington held up the ritual book, the one with the switched pages, and the ceremony began. Mr. Harrington opened the book and began to read. The words were in that ancient language, harsh and guttural. Around us, the guests leaned forward in their seats, eyes bright with anticipation. The hosted children sat motionless, their faces blank masks. Mrs. Harrington stepped into the circle and placed her hands on Vivian's shoulders. Then she turned to me, gesturing for me to come closer. The transfer requires proximity, she said softly, like she was explaining a recipe. Stand beside her. When the entity moves, it will be quick. You won't feel pain, just expansion, like your soul is making room for something greater. I stood beside Vivian. Up close, I could see she was shaking. Tears ran silently down her face. I'm sorry, she whispered, so quiet only I could hear. I'm so sorry. Don't be, I whispered back. Just hold on a little longer. Mr. Harrington's voice rose, the chanting growing faster. The chalk circle began to glow, that same sickly green light from the basement. I could feel something building in the air, like pressure before a storm. That's when the ballroom doors burst open. Dr. Caney strode in, followed by a woman I recognized from the photograph, Catherine, older now, but with Vivian's eyes. Behind them, Marcus stood in the doorway, blocking anyone from leaving. "Stop the ceremony!" Dr. Kane's voice boomed across the room. "Elizabeth, Richard, you don't know what you're reading." Mrs. Harrington's head snapped up. "Matthias, what are you—" "The pages!" Catherine shouted, pushing past guests. He switched the pages. "That's not the transfer ritual, that's the reversal." The room erupted. Mr. Harrington looked down at the book, his face going white. Mrs. Harrington lunged for it, but Dr. Kane was faster. He grabbed the book and continued reading, his voice strong and clear, pronouncing each word with precision. "No!" Mrs. Harrington screamed. "Stop, you'll kill her." "You'll kill all of them." The symbols in the circle burst into blue flames. Vivian's body went rigid. Her eyes rolled back and she began to scream, but it wasn't her voice. It was that layered, terrible sound. The entity realizing what was happening. "What have you done?" The thing inside Vivian roared, her body contorting in ways bodies shouldn't move. "You cannot banish me. I am eternal. You are nothing," Dr. Kane said, still reading, "but a parasite that overstayed its welcome." The blue flames spread, following the chalk lines, creating a cage of light around Vivian and me. I could feel the heat, not burning but intense, like standing too close to the sun. Around the room, the other hosted children began convulsing. Their parents screamed, reaching for them, but Marcus held the door. "They're connected," one of the guests shouted. "The entities, they're all connected through the original binding. If you destroy one, you'll destroy them all." "Good," Catherine said coldly, moving to stand at the edge of the circle. That was always the plan. Mrs. Harrington threw herself at Dr. Kane, trying to rip the book from his hands. Mr. Harrington grabbed her, holding her back as she screamed and clawed. "That's our daughter. That's our daughter. You sold your daughter 10 years ago." Catherine shouted at them. "You fed her to a monster to save her life, and then you let that monster eat her piece by piece. She's been begging to die for years, but you wouldn't let her because you needed your perfect family intact." Inside the circle, Vivian collapsed to her knees. The entity was fighting, thrashing inside her skin, but the blue flames were pulling it out. I could see it now, truly see it. A writhing shadow thing with too many limbs and a face that kept changing, never settling on one form. It was beautiful and horrible and wrong. "Loretta!" Vivian gasped, her real voice breaking through. Her hand found mine. "Thank you. Thank you for—" The entity screamed and lunged at me. I felt it hit, cold and invasive, trying to force its way inside my mind, but the circle held. The blue flames created a barrier, and the entity bounced back, trapped between me and Vivian. Dr. Caney was reaching the final verses of the reversal. His voice never wavered, even as the entity's screaming grew so loud people covered their ears. "Catherine!" Vivian called out, her voice weak. "Kathy, I need to see you." Catherine dropped to her knees at the edge of the circle, tears streaming down her face. "I'm here, Viv. I'm right here. I'm sorry I didn't listen." "I'm sorry I chose—" Vivian coughed and something dark dripped from her mouth. "I should have let it take me back then. I should have been brave enough to die." "You were brave," Catherine sobbed. "You've been so brave fighting for 10 years. But you can rest now. You can finally rest." The entity made one last desperate attempt. It threw itself at the circle's edge, at Catherine, at Marcus, at anyone it could reach. But each time, the blue flames drove it back. All around the ballroom, the 13 hosted children collapsed. Their parents rushed to them screaming, but there was nothing anyone could do. The entities were being ripped out, destroyed by the reversal of the original binding that had called them all. Some of the children would survive, some wouldn't, but all of them would be free. Dr. Caney spoke the final word. The blue flames exploded upward, a pillar of light that broke through the ceiling, the roof, reaching toward the stars. The entity shrieked one last time, a sound of pure rage and terror. and then it was gone. Just gone. Vivian fell forward into my arms. "Is it?" she whispered. "Is it over?" "It's over," I told her, holding her as gently as I could. She smiled, really smiled, and for just a moment I saw the girl from the photograph. Young, whole, free. "Good," she breathed. Then her eyes closed. Catherine broke through the circle. The chalk was just chalk now, no power left in it, and took her sister from my arms. She held Vivian, rocking her, singing something soft and sweet. A lullaby, maybe. Something from when they were children. Vivian died in her sister's arms, with that smile still on her face. The ballroom was chaos. Parents sobbed over their children, some breathing, some not. Mrs. Harrington had collapsed against her husband, both of them staring at Vivian's body with hollow eyes. The other guests were shouting, demanding explanations, threatening lawsuits. Marcus stood at the door, still blocking the exit, his phone in his hand. "I called the police," he announced, "and the FBI, and every news outlet I could find. They're on their way." "You can't do this," one of the fathers shouted. "Our families, our reputations. Your families trafficked in dark magic and enslaved your own children," Dr. Kane said flatly, closing his book. "You made them prisons for entities that should never have been called. You deserve whatever comes next." I pulled out the recording device from my pocket, still running, still capturing everything. "And we have proof," I said, holding it up. "Every word of tonight's ceremony. Every confession. Everything." Mrs. Harrington looked at me with such pure hatred I thought she might attack. But she was broken, empty. Her daughter was dead. Her secrets were exposed. Her perfect life was over. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you destroy everything? We were helping you. Your sister, my sister would rather die than have me pay for her life with someone else's suffering," I said. "That's the difference between you and people like us. We know some prices are too high to pay." Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Catherine was still holding Vivian, but she looked up at me. "Thank you," she said, her voice broken. "Thank you for giving her peace." Around the room, some of the hosted children were waking up, confused, disoriented, but awake, really awake, for the first time in years. One girl, maybe 15, looked around the ballroom with clear eyes and started crying. "Mom?" she said. "Mom, what happened? Where am I?" Her mother collapsed, sobbing, holding her daughter like she'd never let go. Not everyone would survive what we'd done tonight, but those who did would be free. The police arrived 8 minutes later, followed by ambulances, followed by FBI agents who looked at the scene with expressions of complete disbelief, and behind them, news crews, cameras, reporters. The story of the Harrington estate was about to become very, very public. The next 72 hours were a blur of police interviews, FBI interrogations, and camera flashes that never seemed to stop. The recording I'd made, Marcus's recordings, the photos of the binding circle, Dr. Kane's testimony, it was enough. More than enough. By the second day, the story had exploded across every news outlet in the country. Wealthy families accused of occult practices. 13 children freed from alleged supernatural captivity. The Harrington horror, inside the house of binding. Some outlets treated it seriously. Others called it mass hysteria, delusion, an elaborate hoax. But no one could explain away the evidence, the ritual books, the basement circle, the medical records showing impossible recoveries from terminal illnesses, and the children. 13 children who'd been hollow-eyed and silent, suddenly waking up, remembering fragments of the years stolen from them, asking questions no one wanted to answer. 8 of them survived. 5 died in the ballroom when the entities were ripped out, their bodies too damaged, too dependent on the parasites that had kept them alive. The parents who lost their children faced murder charges. The ones whose children survived faced charges of child endangerment, conspiracy, practicing medicine without a license. The list went on and on, The Harringtons were arrested that first night. I watched through a window as police led them away in handcuffs. Mrs. Harrington, elegant even in custody, her head held high. Mr. Harrington broken and silent. They didn't look at each other. They didn't look at anything. Vivian's body was released to Catherine 3 days later. The funeral was small, private, just Catherine, Marcus, Dr. Caney, and me. We buried her in a cemetery far from the estate, under an oak tree where sunlight filtered through the leaves. Catherine placed the photograph on the casket before they lowered it. Vivian, summer 1998. Before, she was my best friend, Catherine said, her voice steady despite the tears. Before she was my sister, before any of this happened, she was my best friend. And I failed her. You saved her, I said. At the end, when it mattered most. 10 years too late. Dr. Caney stepped forward, placing a hand on Catherine's shoulder. I'm the one who failed her. I'm the one who opened the door and let that thing in. He looked at the casket, his face carved from grief. I've contacted the FBI. I'm cooperating fully. There are others, other people I performed bindings for over the years. If any of them are still alive, still suffering. He swallowed hard. I'm going to help free them, however long it takes. The FBI did arrest him eventually, but they also used him. He became their expert on the occult practices that had spread through wealthy circles like a disease. A consultant, a confessor. He would spend the rest of his life atoning. Marcus testified against the Harringtons and was granted immunity. The prosecutor said he was as much a victim as anyone, threatened, trapped, forced to participate. He took a settlement from the Harrington estate and disappeared. Last I heard, he'd moved to Oregon and was working at a library. I hope he found peace. The media attention was relentless. Reporters camped outside Carmen's apartment. They found my phone number, my email, my social media accounts. They wanted interviews, book deals, movie rights. I said no to all of it. This wasn't my story to profit from, but I did agree to one interview with a journalist who'd been covering occult crimes for 20 years. Someone who understood that this wasn't entertainment. It was evidence, proof that wealthy people with resources and desperation could do monstrous things when they thought no one was watching. The article ran in a major newspaper, complete with copies of the ritual texts, photos of the binding circle, transcripts of my recordings. It was thorough, devastating, impossible to dismiss. 2 weeks after publication, 3 more families came forward. Different states, different circumstances, same entities, same binding rituals. The network was bigger than anyone had imagined. The investigation spread. Federal task forces formed, and slowly, painfully, more children were freed. Not all of them survived. Some had been bound for so long, there was nothing left of them to save. But some did. Some woke up and reclaimed their lives because of what happened at the Harrington estate. Because Vivian fought for 10 years, and Catherine never gave up, and Marcus finally found his courage, and Dr. Caney chose redemption over cowardice, and because I didn't look away. Carmen got her surgery. The Harringtons' transfer went through before their assets were frozen. $14,000 like they'd promised. Blood money, but it saved my sister's life, so I took it. She doesn't know the full story. I told her I cleaned a big house, made good money, and got a bonus. That's all she needs to know. Maya drew me a picture. A house with a garden and windows without bars. For your next job, she said, so you can work somewhere pretty. I keep it on my refrigerator. 3 months after that night, I received a package. No return address. Inside was a letter from Catherine. Loretta, I've been thinking about what you said at the funeral. That I saved Vivian. Maybe I did at the very end. But you're the one who really saved her. You're the one who refused to look away when everyone else, including me, for too long, chose comfort over courage. The therapist I'm seeing says I need to forgive myself. She says Vivian wouldn't want me to carry this guilt forever. I'm trying. Some days are easier than others. I'm using my inheritance, what's left of it after legal fees, to start a foundation for families who've been victimized by occult practices, pseudo-spiritual exploitation, coercive control. We're calling it the Vivian Harrington Foundation because she deserves to be remembered as more than a cautionary tale. She deserves to be remembered as someone who fought. If you ever want to be involved, there's a place for you. No pressure, just an open door. Thank you for giving my sister peace. Thank you for being braver than the rest of us. Catherine, I called her the next day. I'm still involved with the foundation. It's important work, hard work, but it means Vivian's suffering wasn't for nothing, and neither was mine. So that's my story. That's what happened in the house behind the iron gates, with the oak trees that lean in like they're listening. The Harrington estate was sold at auction 6 months ago. A developer bought it, plans to tear it down and build condos. I think that's fitting. Let something new grow where something terrible happened. Let light into those dark rooms. Sometimes people ask me if I'd do it again, if I'd take that job, knowing what I know now. If I'd walk into that house and put myself in the path of something ancient and hungry and wrong, the answer is yes. Every time, yes. Because here's what I learned in that house. Silence is a choice. Looking away is a choice. When you see something wrong, really wrong, soul deep wrong, and you tell yourself it's not your business, it's not your problem, someone else will handle it, you're making a choice. You're choosing the side of the people with power and money and secrets. I was just a housekeeper. I cleaned toilets and folded sheets and made myself invisible so wealthy people could pretend I didn't exist. I had every reason to take their money, stay quiet, and let Vivian suffer. But I didn't. And 13 children are free because of that choice. 8 of them are alive, building new lives, learning who they are without something else living inside them. That matters. It matters more than my safety, more than my comfort, more than the money. Carmen asks me sometimes why I still clean houses. The foundation pays well. I could work there full time, get an office, wear nice clothes. But I keep taking housekeeping jobs. Different families, different houses, because I'm watching. I'm always watching. You'd be surprised what people do when they think the help can't see them. The closed doors, the whispered conversations, the children who don't make eye contact, the rooms you're told never to enter. I've reported 3 families to Child Protective Services in the past year. Nothing supernatural, just a regular human cruelty, which is sometimes worse. 2 of those children are in better homes now. The third, I don't know yet. But I'm watching. That's my job now. Not just cleaning, watching. Marcus sent me a postcard last month. Just 3 words. Still here, thanks. Catherine calls every few weeks. The foundation is growing. They're helping families deprogram from coercive groups, survivors of ritual abuse, people whose communities told them their suffering was holy or necessary or a gift. Vivian's story gave them permission to speak. Dr. Caney is in prison now. Minimum security. 5 years for his role in the bindings. He teaches classes to the other inmates. Philosophy, ethics, the history of how good intentions pave roads to hell. When he gets out, Catherine says he'll work for the foundation too. Everyone finds their own way to atone. I still have nightmares. About the thing in Vivian's body, the way it looked at me with those black eyes. About the blue flames and the screaming. About the 5 children who didn't make it. But I also dream about Vivian's smile at the end. Real, free, whole. That helps. That helps more than I can say. I want you to understand something. The Harringtons weren't monsters. They were parents who loved their daughter and made a terrible choice when they were desperate and scared. Then they made another terrible choice to protect the first one. And another. And another. Until they'd built a prison out of love and called it salvation. That's how evil works, most of the time. Not with horns and fangs, but with rationalizations and good intentions and the ability to look away from suffering if it benefits you. The question isn't whether you'll ever face a choice like I did. The question is whether you'll recognize it when you do. When you see the closed door, the whispered conversation, the person asking for help that everyone else ignores. Will you look away? Will you tell yourself it's not your business? Or will you be the person who opens the door? I'm still cleaning houses, still watching, still listening. And if you ever need someone who won't look away, who won't stay silent, who will walk into the darkness with you, you know where to find me. Thanks for listening to my story. If it meant something to you, tell me in the comments what choice you'd make. Would you have taken the money and left or stayed to fight? I read every comment, I promise. And hit that subscribe button so you don't miss my next story. Because trust me, there are more houses with secrets. More doors I've been told not to open. And I'm going to open every single one. This is Loretta, signing off. Stay safe out there. And remember, somebody's always watching. Make sure it's someone who cares.